Hi everyone, welcome to Art Base. I'm George and I'm going to show you how to create this lovely watercolour lion. I'm using just a palette like this and just a small size 4 or size 6 paintbrush, and you'll just need a pencil and a rubber to start with. And hopefully you'll enjoy it and create this beautiful colourful lion just like this. Okay. So I'm just going to spin the camera around so you can see my easel. And what we're going to do first of all is we're just going to start by drawing him out. Now you can probably see my light pencil lines. This is just to help me draw it and not be rubbing out in front of all of you and wasting time. So if you get your pencil ready and a rubber potentially if you need it, and we will begin. So I've got my paper, I'm working on A3. I've got my paper portrait, which means the long edges down the side, as you can see. Okay, and I'm using a HB pencil, but you can use any pencil at all. I'm going to press a little bit harder so you can see more clearly my lines. But when you're sketching it out, and especially when doing watercolour, you need to press quite lightly because you don't really want your pencil marks to be seen through the paint. And it's very tricky to rub them out after you've painted over them too. Okay, so what I tend to do is I tend to start with the eyes first, okay? And I'm going to start about a third of the way down. It's quite a big chunk down, nearly halfway down the page. If I show you, can you see? So it's quite a way down the page and to the right of your page. You don't want to start right over there, otherwise you won't fit the rest of his head in, because we're going to start with his right hand eye here. And all I want you to do first of all is we're going to just put the curve of the eye socket in and the nose. Okay, so I'm just going to start by drawing a little curve like that, like the letter C. And I'm going to come down like this and round. And then I'm just going to do his nose. Now, obviously, you can pause and rewind this at your leisure because it's a recording. So we just need to get that shape coming down at an angle. And then I've done the top of his nose, a little bit of a wiggly line. That's the middle bit of his nose. And then all I'm going to do is almost turn it into a triangle. Can you see? Like that. So I've continued that line down and I'm just going to draw a line coming down like that. Okay, so that's like the bit that divides his little cheeks off. Next, we're just going to bring this curve round like this, and we can just pop his little eye inside that. Okay, so quite big. Yeah, so like a little, almost like a little egg on its side, like so. Next, we can put this cheek in on the side, coming round and not quite joining up with the bottom of this line. Okay, and then what we can do here, we can join it up with a little line like that. So you try and see your picture in shapes first, not like a big line that's a bit scary to draw. So you can see the shapes appearing. Okay, now he's got this lovely big long mouth, which I'm sure has got a lot of teeth inside. So we curve that down and back up slightly. And then I'm going to just turn that round a little bit because he's got almost like quite a wide sort of loop on the end of his mouth, like that. Can you see? And then we can pop his lovely chin in. So from this line here that I've drawn, I'm just going to come down a little bit, a slight curve, and then just sort of halfway into that loop, I'm going to come down, and then I'm just going to do lines like this, coming down like this to join up with that. So you get that line appearing. Okay, so you can start to see the shape of his face. Now, this might be the tricky bit, so you might have to do this a couple of times. I did, believe it or not, I had to rub out a couple of times. So don't be worried that you're not getting it right first time. So he has got a very wide nose at the top. So you don't want to be drawing the eye too close to this one. Now, the top of the eye needs to be in line with this top bit here, this top curve. So all I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to draw a line just coming down slightly. I've left 1, 2, 3, nearly 4 finger spaces between that, okay? And then I'm going to come down and in like that, just down and in. And then again, it's a shape. I'm just coming in a little bit and round and down. So it looks a bit like that shape there. Okay, so hopefully you can copy that quite straightforwardly. Okay, and then all I'm going to do is just pop that inner eye inside. So another almost semicircle inside it. You can, if you want, just gently put the pupil, and this will make sure that you don't make your lion cross-eyed. So you can just very lightly put the 2 little round pupils in. Next, we'll put the shape of his head in. I'm not going to spend too long drawing, so we want to get the painting going. So from the tip of that eye here, okay, and you can do it as a sketchy line. Yeah, you don't have to press really hard and do a really hard line because he's hairy, isn't he? He's furry. So I'm coming up and round. Can you see? Not too high up. He hasn't got a massive forehead because the mane is his main, excuse the wording, is the main part of the picture. And then as I come down, everybody, I'm just going to come down this side. So it's almost like, can you see? Like an arc going over his eyes. I'm going to come out a little bit and then I'm going to come down. Now we're aiming to come at an angle and come back down towards this little loop and his chin. So you can go past the loop and come back up again, like so. Okay, so there's the shape of his face. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to lower down the picture a little bit so you can see the next bit. Okay, so we'll pop his mane on next. Okay, up here. So starting just by his eye, I'm going to do some flicks coming out really lightly. These are just to guide our paintbrushes when we start painting. So you can follow the lines that I do. Okay, so I'm working up over his head, coming out quite long. Be quite long with those pencil marks, and they're curving that way. And as I come up the head, yeah. So these are just guidelines, really. So don't do them too dark. I'm obviously doing them dark so you can see. Round, round. I'm going to make them thicker as well. So don't worry, he's not going to have just very thin strands of hair. Now, I've stopped for a little bit now, and just here is well, it's not a little ear, it's quite a big ear, goes in. So about here, so just sort of line it up, imagine that as an angle. This comes round like this and back down. So you remember when we came out a little bit there? Yeah. And then inside, you can draw some little fluffy bits as well. Okay. And then we can then just continue coming round this mane, these just strands coming down, 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 down like that. Okay. And they sort of curl round underneath. So you can see, I'll move that back. So I've just realised you can't see the bottom bit. So I'll just raise him up back up again. There we go. So they've come round, down like that. And then I've just stopped there just for a minute because we can go back up to his eye, halfway, and come round like that and round like that. So those are just guidelines so we know where to do our painting. Okay, so that is all the drawing you need to do to begin with. The next step will be starting to paint. So I'll just get my paints ready. Okay, so we're ready to paint, everybody. So what I tend to do is I tend to start with the eyes and then move outwards, okay? And we move outwards using our lightest colours first as well, and then move on to the darker tones right at the end. So with this paint palette that I showed you at the start of the recording, I'm just going to start with a nice yellow, quite a dark yellow, okay? So probably one about that. Mine's a bit mucky, but don't worry because it's sort of like we need this sort of orangey colour. So a nice sort of darkish yellow will be fabulous. And what you need to do, these are watercolours, so obviously you need some water. You need to really, really tickle your paint like this. So you get plenty, there we go, if I get it in the screen, plenty of paint taken up by your brush. And what I'd like you to do first, everybody, very carefully, is just paint just underneath like that, his eyes. I'm leaving a little bit of white at the top because you want a little bit of shine in his eyes. And I'm just going to paint that one underneath, okay? Like so. And I'm going to leave that to dry just for a little bit because one of the big things that happens with watercolours is they can smudge, especially if you've used plenty of water. So we'll just let those dry for the time being. Now the next colour I'm going to use, and most watercolour palettes have this in, is a yellow ochre, which is this one here. It's like a goldeny sort of yellowy brown, and it's usually, in my palette, it's next to the black, but it's a yellow ochre. Now if you haven't got this colour, yellow will be fine, don't worry. And all I want you to do, first of all, everyone, is we're just going to paint this yellow ochre. Can you see it's like a goldeny yellow? And I want you just to come down his nose like this, okay? Just down to about here, not right down to his nose there. And we can come up a little bit, just up here. And then what I'd like you to do is give your brush a wash and a wipe. I just go like this. I just wipe it a little bit with my finger. So I've got a clean brush, and can you see it blends in and it makes your paint go a little bit lighter. So I'm just going to bring a little bit of that yellow ochre over like that. Okay, so you can see already on screen there's a slight difference in tone. Okay, and you do that with your water. I'm going to wash my brush again, give it a little bit of a wipe so it's not too soggy. And I'm going to get a little bit more dragged over so it's gone really light, just to about there. Okay, but there's no right or wrong. You can be quite splodgy with this if you want. I've left a little bit of white over his eye. Can you see? Okay, now I'm going to put a little bit more yellow ochre. So the same colour, just a little bit. Only a little bit here, not too much, okay? Just on that bit, just on his little cheeky area there. And then I'm just going to wash my brush and I've just blended that out. Can you see? Yeah, so you don't go too dark. Okay, fabulous. Now with that yellow ochre as well, we can put a few bits of his mane in. So we're starting with the lighter colours. So this is why we can sort of move around our painting with our light colours and slowly build up the tones. So what you can do, you can make your pencil lines a bit thicker. Okay, so I'm going to come down this side. So I'm going to follow my pencil lines. So I'm just using the yellow ochre. Now, obviously, my pencil lines are showing through because I pressed a little bit harder. So if you want to, you can rub these out. Just get a rubber. If yours are quite dark, just get a rubber really lightly and just knock back your pencil marks a little bit. Okay, and then they won't show through. So I'm just going to really just put a few, I'm doing them quite thick. Can you see? So I'm pressing a little bit harder with my brush. So you get a thicker brush line. Okay, and I might put, it doesn't matter where you put it, you can decide where you want to put your yellow ochre. You can decide which ones. I'm not going to paint all of them with yellow ochre, just a few. So I'm going to put one down the side here. And the good thing is we can always go over them. Okay, so be quite, you know, thick and wide with your brush marks like so. And then I might just I'll just lower it down a little bit so you can see. I might just put a few just on the top in yellow ochre. So just coming out like that. Okay, like so. And again, like I said, you can decide where you'd like to put it. Okay, so that's the yellow ochre done. I'm not going to put any more yellow ochre on him for the time being. The next step is we're going to step up to another colour now. It's called a burnt sienna, okay? And it's this lovely sort of orangey brown. Now, if you haven't got this colour, you can use orange. That's absolutely fine, okay? And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to use a little bit of this brown. Now, make sure that your eyes are dry. See, mine's still a little bit wet. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to leave them just for a moment. And then the next step is I'm going to put some more mane in with this burnt sienna, okay? So you can start, so really tickle that paint palette, so get plenty on your brush, okay? So I'm starting to work round my lovely lion, okay? Adding more and more as I go. Coming out a little bit, so you don't have to stick to your pencil lines either, everyone. So you can sort of come out a little bit. They're just there for a guide on which direction you need to paint. So I'm coming down and down. So just a few there. I'll raise him back up again, just so you can see down at the bottom. So really, it's quite a nice, straightforward painting to do because you're sort of basically decorating him. Decorating his mane. We're going to go a bit more splodgy in a bit. So just gently popping in these lovely brown tones. I've done a bit there. Maybe a couple coming up there. Be careful when you get close to his face. You don't want to paint into his eyes. Just go steady as you go up near to his eye. And then I'm going to do a couple. I haven't got many down here. So just a couple, just under his chin, not too many, like so. There we go. Okay. Now, sticking with the burnt sienna, make sure your eyes are dry. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to zoom in so you can see his eyes. There we go. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to very carefully just put a little tiny splodge just at the top. Can you see? Very, very carefully. And then all I want you to do is I'm going to wipe my brush. So I use my fingers. It's a bit naughty really, but you can use a bit of tissue. So I've got a dry brush, okay? It's still got, I just wiped a little bit of the burnt sienna off and just bring down some of that burnt sienna into your yellow. Now, can you can see the difference between the yellow and the brown? What you need to do is just wipe your brush again, get it clean and get it dry. And you can just blend that in. You have to have a really steady hand for this. But if you just want to have your eyes yellow, yeah, that's absolutely fine as well. This is just to give a little bit of a difference in tone in his eyes, that's all. Okay, so we'll leave that again. We don't want to get his eyes blurred by putting wet on wet. We don't want that, so we'll let those dry. Now we're still sticking with our burnt sienna, so this nice brown. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put a little bit over the top of this eye. It's a little bit of almost like an eyebrow, isn't it? Can you see? And then I'm coming round like so, coming all the way round to there. I've left a little bit of a white gap above his eye. Can you see there? Just like that. Okay. Move it back. And then staying with the burnt sienna, I'm going to come down a little bit. Just down and round. Can you see how I'm doing that? Down to about there. So that little shape can be quite a little, it's quite an irregular shape, isn't it? Now I'm going to wash my brush. And I've got a clean brush now, quite a clean watery brush. I'm going to wash it again and wipe it so it's relatively dry. And I'm just going to come out, just like we did with the yellow ochre up there, just go a little bit lighter. That's all. Okay, and you can bring it into your yellow ochre up there. Okay. I might come over just a little bit more. Just a little bit. So I've still not got any paint on my brush. I'm sort of just got a wet brush and I'm dragging my paint over like that. But you can take your time with that, obviously, because you can record and, pause the recording. Sticking with the burnt sienna still, everyone. I'm going to put a little bit under his eye. So quite dark. So I put some more paint on my brush. Okay, just under his eye there. So I've done that and I've washed my brush again and I've wiped it dry. And I'm just going to bring that down, just down the side, a little bit of his little nose. It's not really a little nose, is it? It's a big nose, like we said. So all the way down. So a little bit more. So we want this part of his nose to stand out. We want that to be lighter. So you always go a little bit darker behind. So use your water as well, just to soften that off. So can you see that's made his nose stand out quite nicely? Okay. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do a little bit of this burnt sienna just on parts of his ear. So I left a bit, just do it quite random, yeah, like this. Doesn't have to be really neat. If you want to be a bit neater, you can. But this painting's quite loose and quite messy, for want of a better word. So you don't have to be too neat with it, okay? I'll move that back a little bit so you can see. So what we're doing basically is building up the layers of colour, all right? I'm going to put the last little bit of burnt sienna on and then we can swap to another colour. So I'm just going to put a little bit, because remember this jawline that we did here? You need to just fill that in a little bit. So just with your burnt sienna here, yeah, I'm just putting it down there, a little bit more. So I'll put a little bit more, you can see it went a bit darker. Just a little bit more here. And then I'm going to just get a bit of water on my brush. And you can let it dribble down a little bit. That's absolutely fine if you've got your paint, but I've got my painting upright against my easel, so that's why it's dribbling down a little bit. Okay, so we've got the shape of his lovely face still there. Okay, now I'm not going to go near his eyes yet. What we can do is we can add another colour into his mane. And I'm going to use a lovely bright pink. Now, I've got a pink in my palette down here. It's a cerise pink, but if you haven't got a pink, okay, you could use the red that's in your palette like this, or you can do a purple. It's entirely up to you. You can be quite experimental with this painting, but I'm just going to use the pink. So whatever colour you choose, put it on where I put the pink on, okay? Just don't do black or dark brown yet, because we'll add those at the end, but you can put like a purple or a red, or if you've got a pink, fabulous. So I've got pink on my brush now, everyone. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put pink over where I painted that burnt sienna. And it doesn't matter if it's a little bit wet either. Okay, now I've washed my brush. Can you see it's really watery? You can go into your lion's face a little bit. You don't have to be too neat with the pencil marks. Okay, so I've done a little bit of pink there. You're thinking a pink lion, but honestly, it will look good at the end, I promise. Okay, and then what you can do, you can then start putting some pink effects in between your gaps of your mane. Can you see? You can use a little bit of water as well to get your pink to go lighter, because water is your white in watercolouring. It helps your paint to go lighter. I'm going to put a little bit up behind his ear, some more little, yeah, like this. And you can come down, and again, if you want, wet your brush, and that makes it go really watery, okay, but nice, like so. And I'm going to fill in some of those white blanks as well, so he gets more of a chunky mane. Okay, I'll just lower it down a little bit so you can see. Bear with me, there we go. And then continuing with the pink, I'm just going to come in a little bit more, make him have a little bit of a spiky haircut up here. So fill in between the gaps, and you can go over some of your paint that you've already put on. That won't hurt at all, so don't worry about that. Okay. So I'm coming right down to his forehead. And then I'm going to do a few more just over here. And they're a little bit shorter on this side, just on this top bit here. So you can go a little bit shorter. And it's sticking out. I'm coming down. Hopefully you can copy this as I go along. Careful around his eye. Looks like a bit of a punk lion, doesn't he? And then as I come down, I'm going to go quite chunky here. Make sure you can see. Let me alter the camera just so you can still see. Just a little bit chunky, going close to his nose, being very careful. And then as I come down, just, there we go, just like that. Okay, so a little bit there. And then lastly, just under his chin with the pink. We'll put a little bit of pink on his face in a moment. So I'm just going to put a little bit of pink just under his chin, not on his chin, not that lovely chin that we drew, just underneath it. Okay. And I'm crossing over some of my other brush marks that I did earlier. Okay. And you can go right up into that little gap, like so. And then a little bit more coming out here, just underneath, just going back over where we started the pink, like that. Okay. And then the pink on his ear, just goes a little bit just inside and down the edge of your pencil line a little bit. And we'll put some darker bits in his ear shortly. Okay, so I've just done it like that. And then I've still got a bit of pink on my brush. Remember where we did this burnt sienna? Should be a little bit drier now, everyone, so you can just paint over that. So we're just popping this pink all over his face. Okay, in these little bits here. Well, we're not putting it all over his face. I meant in just little parts of his face. Okay, so a little bit down that bit. Now, if it looks a bit like, oh, look, that's quite, looks like something with little legs and a tail, doesn't it? So you can, remember, you can wash your brush, give it a wipe, and you can blend in. You can blend in that pink if it goes a little bit too harsh. Don't go higher over his nose. You want that nose to stay that sort of colour if you can. Okay, and I've just gone to the side here. So what we'll do is we'll put in the little marks, little dots where his whiskers come out down there. But before we do that, with the pink, what you can do, you can just put some little lines here. Can you see? It's like a little fork. I'm only going to do 3 little lines. Can you see just in that cheek bit, just down there? Hopefully you can see that. Okay, and then wash your brush a little bit. You can sort of smudge them in just slightly. Yeah, if you can. And that's his little cheek, isn't it? Where his little whiskers are going to come out of. And we'll let that dry just for the time being. Okay, so we'll move on to another colour now. And I'm going to go and use the colour blue. Now, there's lots of blues that you can use. I'm going to go quite light, but you can choose any blue that you like. You might have a darker blue, but the light blue is absolutely fine. So it's like a cobalt blue, this is called. You might only have this one here, which is fine too. That's like a royal blue, but it's called an ultramarine blue. So those 2 blues will be absolutely fine. And all I'm going to do with my blue, everyone, is I'm just going to put a few little lines of blue, and it goes really nicely over the pink or red if you haven't got pink and you've used red, because we know that red and blue make purple, so you might find it might go a bit purpley. So I'm just putting these little, we don't need too much blue. Okay, so I'm just putting a few little bits of blue here and there. I might need a little bit more on my brush. So keep adding your watercolour on your brush. Yeah, and just put a few little highlights of the blue here and there. Not too much. Yeah, we don't want to go too much with the blue. Okay, just put a little bit more just up here, just on the top of his head. Brilliant. Okay. Now, what we need to do next is we need to go to a dark brown before we go to our last colours, okay? So what we're going to use is this sort of brown here, and hopefully you'll be able to see it. It's called a raw umber, so it's a dark brown. Now, if you haven't got a brown, what you can do is mix a bit of red and black together on a little palette, and that will make a nice dark brown, okay? So what I want you to do, once you've got your dark brown on your brush, okay, we're just going to put in a few little darker tones just to add a little bit of form to our painting. So I'm going to start, can you see, just in his ear, just a little bit, some little hairs coming up like that. And I'm going to put just a little bit of dark brown just behind his ear so it stands out. Just around the edge, but little dots almost. Can you see? And this will make his little ear, I keep saying little ear, don't I? His ear stand out, but we don't want to outline it. Don't do a big line, yeah? Little dashes. Now, to stop it looking a little bit harsh, we wash our brush, remember, and you can just soften in that brown a little bit. Yeah, you just have to soften it in with your watery brush, and that will just blend in your brown a little bit so it's not too harsh. Okay, you can just go over your brush marks with that clean brush, and it just softens in where you've been with your brown. And then I'm going to go a little bit just on the top up here. Okay, so a little bit of brown, dark brown coming over there. And going down here. Yeah, just a few. Just down the edge of his face, can you see? So they're like little spikes coming out, like so. And then I'm going to put a little bit just under his eye. Now, if you cover up that burnt sienna, which I have a little bit, remember what you can do. You can wash your brush and just gently, with that clean brush, just blend in that brown if it goes a little bit too dark. Yeah, just use your water to soften it off. And you can even go back into your burnt sienna a little bit, like that. Because we really like to keep that dark shadow just on that side to make his nose stand out. Okay. And then just with that little bit of brown, all I want you to do is just a little bit of brown. Just here, I'm going to put a little dot like that. Oh, you're thinking, well, why have you put a little brown dot there? So all I would like is do that, wash your brush, give it a wipe, and we'll just blend it in. It's just a little bit of shadowing. Can you see? Just down there, just down his little nose, just a little bit of shadowing, just to accentuate that nose a little bit. I'm just thinking I might just put, and because you're at home doing this at your leisure, it's fine. We can just put a little bit more, just a little bit of burnt sienna over the top as well. Can you see? So a little splodge of burnt sienna, and then wipe your brush and just smudge that in a bit as well. You can come down his nose a little bit. Okay. Lovely. Just looking at the other place, we could put a little bit in as well with the burnt sienna still. So that's that nice, just so you don't know, she's saying, which one's the burnt sienna? It's that orangey brown. Do you remember that one there? If you can, or orange if you've been using orange. I'm just going to put a little bit over his eye there. You see? Like that. Just a little mark over his eye. And if it looks a bit splodgy, remember what we do. We wash and clean our brush, and you can just blend it in a little bit, like that. Okay. Let me have another little look with this brown. So we were doing the brown, weren't we, up here? Just put, so this is the darker brown. So this darker brown that we've putting on, I'm just going to put a little bit just in the sides here. So I'm almost just dabbing it on quite gently. Can you see? Just over that pink, just a little bit. So it gives a little bit of shadow. I'm coming all the way down that side of his face and under his chin a little bit. You can go. And if it's a little bit too dark, can you see there? Wash and wipe your brush, clean brush. And then you can just blend it out like that. So we're giving him a bit of form now, yeah? We're making him look like he's got some nice darks and lights in his face. And then the last little bit of dark brown, just a little bit, just around this white bit of his. Yeah, so I haven't gone really dark with the brown. It's sort of relatively watery. Yeah, and I'm just going to make sure that his chin stands out quite nicely. I'm just going to put a little bit of dark brown under that. Okay, like so. So you could sort of just got these darker tones, maybe one more little bit just under here as I look back. It's always good as well, everyone, just to step back from your painting every now and again. And that always makes you think, oh, I might need to put a little bit more brown here, or I might put just a little bit more brown here. Okay, it's always good to stand back and have a good look at your painting. Okay, so the next step will be adding and doing his nose and his mouth and his eyes. And we're going to be using the colour black, okay, which is a very strong colour. It's a lovely colour, and it will really bring out the rest of your colours in your painting. And you have to be really careful with it as well, because it is tricky to paint over. So we've got to be really careful. So I'd like you to choose the smallest brush that you've got, because we're going to do some lovely detail in the eye and on his nose and on his mouth. Okay, and we've got to do this really carefully. Now, hopefully your eyes are dry. If they're not dry, do not put any black inside the eyes, because it will just bleed into your yellow and your orange that we put in earlier. Okay, so you get your black on your brush and really twiddle your brush in your palette. Okay, and I'm going to zoom in, there we go, to his eye so you can see. And really very carefully, all I'd like you to do first, everyone, is with your black, can you see I'm hardly pressing? I'd like you to just almost give him some eyeliner. Yeah, so that pattern, do you remember we did that sort of shape around when we were drawing? I'm just going to make it a little bit thicker on the top, can you see? But I'm going to come round and down and underneath really carefully, like that, and down like that. Okay, so I've given him, now I haven't done like a neat line there, but if you have, that's absolutely fine. Okay, so that's one outline done. Now, only if your eye is dry, colour this. And now I'm going to go up a little bit. Now look at the shape of my, I've sort of almost divided it, his eye in half, and just done a little line going up. And there's two white dots either side. Now, if you lose your white dots, see that one there and that one there, don't panic. If you've got a little bit of white in the house, a little bit of white poster paint or acrylic paint or even a bit of Tipex, you can just re-add your little white dots back in if you've gone a bit too much with the black. So don't worry. The good thing about art is you can always make your mistakes better. Okay, so if you could do the same, ready, on this side. So I'm just painting above the eye. I'm going to come out a little bit, go up a little bit. So can you see how much pressure I'm putting on my brush? Not a lot. I'm hardly bending it. Now, if you prefer, you could do this with a felt pen at home if you're a little bit unsure. Now, I'm going to stop there, okay? I haven't gone right round to his nose. Can you see? Because I want that part of the underneath bit of his eye to be white, like that. So I've just done a little bit of an eyeliner there, and that's where maybe a pen, if you're struggling to get that thin line, maybe a black pen will be better. See if you can do it really carefully, just coming down that side as well. Okay, and then with this pupil, all I'm going to do, I'm just going to paint the dot on this side, like so. Okay, like that. There we have it. And I'm going to wash my brush, everyone, because what I want to do is just so it looks rather lovely, doesn't he, with his eyeliner now. I've just got a clean brush and I've wiped it. all I'm going to do is just smudge, just very gently, so my brush isn't soaking wet. Just a little bit. I'm just going to smudge it just a little bit over the top. Yeah, just a little bit, so it goes a bit grey. So this is a clean, and it just makes it look like your eyes aren't as just stuck onto the lion. Okay, so it just smudges the outline a little. Maybe ask a grown-up to help this bit if you're a child doing this. Okay, and just, I know that some grown-ups might be doing this, just smudge it a little bit like that. So hopefully you can see that. And that was with a clean, dryish brush. Okay, but it really brings your lion out now, doesn't it? Can you see how that black paint has really brought the other colours out? So what we can do next is we can move on to our nose. So we're sticking with the colour black, everybody. And what I'm going to do, what I'd like you to do as well, is just on the corners now, I'm going to do black coming down. And can you do the same upon this corner here? Yeah, like so. So I've just done it on the edges like that. Okay, now can you hear me? I'm washing my brush again. I'm going to give it a wipe. And what I would like you to do, I've got a clean brush. Can you smudge your black a little bit? Can you see? And it goes grey. And I'm going to leave a white bit in the middle, little white shine. And I'm going to bring that grey down as well. So again, remember, the water makes your paint go lighter. There we go. So I've got some different tones in his nose, so it makes it just that little bit more interesting. Okay. Keeping with your black as well, we're going to do his mouth. Now, again, if you're a little bit unsteady or a bit unsure of painting with black, you can use a felt tip for this as well. And what I'm doing, I'm going to come down his nose, that line, and I'm going that way. And do you remember we did that little bit? Now I'm going to make a little bit of a slightly bigger mouth there, like that. And then really carefully, I'm almost dotting it. Can you see? Like this. And then do you remember we did that loop? I'm going to paint that in black as well, because that gives that characteristic look of that lion's mouth with that sort of loop on the end. Can you see? Like so. And then I'm going to give my brush a wash. Okay. And I'm going to give it a wipe again with my fingers. Fingers are getting very mucky now. And then just gently, I'm going to smudge very gently. Don't be very careful doing this. You could do this with pencil. Okay, because it's, yeah, with a little bit of pencil, just to give a little bit of shadowing just around his little mouth and just under his chin. So what I've done, what's happened is the paintbrush has picked up the paint here, yeah? Can you see? And it's gone a bit grey. But you can do this with a pencil. If I show you with my pencil, it gives just as good effect. So if you're not very sure about smudging, yeah, you can use your pencil to put some of those little hairs on. Yeah, like so. You could put a few over that side as well. Okay, so if you want to do that with a pencil, do that. That'll be probably much better. And again, with a pencil or a black pen, oops, I need to get a little bit more paint on my brush. I'm just going to put in his little whisker marks. Can you see? Like that, just like so. I'm just going to put it over those little pink prongs that we drew. Okay. And then if you want to, with your pencil, you can just make that curve a little bit more. Like so. And if your painting is dry, with your pencil, you can put some of those lovely whiskers on. So do it quite quickly. You see? Like that. Fabulous. Okay. Now, the last little bit, let's have a little look at him. He's looking rather amazing, isn't he, with his lovely eyes? The last little bit is we can do a little bit of splatting, a little bit of dripping. So if I raise up my painting a little bit more so you can see, we can make some of his mane look like it's dripping down. Now you will have to probably hold up your painting, hold it up so the paint can drip down. Now you might have to ask a grown-up if you're a child doing this, just to give a little bit of help with this if you struggle. But the trick is basically you just need to get a really watery paintbrush and put lots of water on your paint. Okay, and you put a blob, and then a little bit more water on your brush. Oh, it's not working, is it? But you can cheat with this, you see. You can do this, just look like it's dripping down. Yeah, so you can drip it down like so. Okay. So just do another one coming down. So you can, so make sure your paint's really watery, don't press hard. We'll be here forever if I had to do the drips, but you can have a go by just putting lots of paint on. Yeah, but I'm just cheating a little bit, look, making it look like it's dripping. It will eventually drip. Now you can do it in the colours that you've put on your lion. So I've done a couple of pinks. Okay, I've done, let's do a blue here. So I've done blue there. So I'm just going to put a couple of blues. So again, if you can get it to drip, fabulous. Unlike me that can't. Yeah, just that's fine. So you just need lots of paint really, and be careful, don't do it on your best table or your best tablecloth, okay, otherwise you'll be in trouble. I might put a little bit of yellow, so we did use yellow, didn't we? So you can get a little bit of yellow as well, a little bit of yellow, that looks quite nice as well, coming down, and they can go longer, you know, some can be longer than others. Okay, like so. So you can do as many drips as you want, but I'd do them just at the bottom. Don't try and do them up at the top. Otherwise you can ruin the painting, yeah? So there's the drippy bits. Sorry, I didn't really, I think you understand what I mean to do. Let's see if we can, if I keep putting water on, look, like this, it might go down. Should we see whether it does it? Hang on. Gravity is against me at the minute. It's not wanting to drip. No, anyway, I'll just paint it on. Okay, and then the final bit, this is the good bit as well. I'll just move him down a little bit now that you've seen the drips. Is you can give him a bit of a splat. Okay, now watch. Again, choose the colours that you've used. I'm just going to put my hand over his face. Make sure you haven't got any nice equipment or anything nearby for this, because it does go everywhere, all your best clothes on. And you can just do some splatting all the way around. Oh, I got a bit on his eye there. Doesn't matter. So that's why you have to be careful. You could put a little bit of paper over his face if it's dry. Okay, so just do some nice splatting. You can do some splodges with your, bigger splodges with your paintbrush as well. Can you see? And I might do some blue as well. Yeah. So yeah, try not to do it over his face if you can, everyone. You can do some in his mane. It looks nice in his mane. Yeah. But it makes a really good splat. Can you see I've got a little bit on his face there, but it doesn't matter, it's fine. Okay, and you can put some more splodgy bits here and there. Yeah, like so. And there, everybody, you have your lovely, colourful rainbow lion. And you can keep working on it. You can keep adding, bits of mane. So remember to stand back, keep looking at it and thinking, oh, I might just put a little bit more in the mane or a little bit more brown just to cover up some of those, pencil marks if they're showing through a little bit. But remember, your water, your clean brush will always soften out those pencil marks as well. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that, and I'd love to see some of your creations. Let me spin round so I can see you. I'd love to see some of your creations if you do this recording, and you can email us them. But otherwise, enjoy and have fun creating your lovely colourful lions. Okay, see you soon, I hope. Bye-bye.